Story No. 1. The voicemail my dead phone left me. My phone died on a Thursday evening. Not the battery, the phone itself. I dropped it getting out of the car and the screen shattered badly enough that it wouldn't turn on. I took it to the repair shop Friday morning, left it there, and spent the weekend without a phone. No big deal. I borrowed my wife's when I needed to make calls. I picked it up Monday. The technician said they'd replaced the screen and done a standard diagnostic. Everything was working fine. I paid, put it in my pocket, and drove home. That evening, I was going through the phone making sure everything had transferred correctly when I noticed something in my voicemail inbox. There was a new message. Received Saturday at 3:22 am while the phone was powered off in a repair shop. The number it came from was my own number. My phone had called itself and left a voicemail while it was sitting, screen shattered, powered off, in a locked repair shop overnight. I sat with that information for a moment before I played the message. It was 43 seconds long. The first 20 seconds or so were silence, the same inhabited silence I've come to associate with open lines where something is present but not speaking. Then a sound that I can only describe as movement, not footsteps exactly, more the sound of something shifting its position, the way a person sounds when they adjust how they're sitting or standing. Then, for the remaining time, breathing. Slow and steady, in and out. That was it. 43 seconds. Silence, movement, breathing. I played it 4 times. My wife listened to it twice. She had no explanation. I had no explanation. I called the repair shop the next morning and asked if anyone had been in the store overnight Saturday. The owner said no. The shop was locked, alarmed, no after-hours access. He asked why I was asking. I told him I'd received a strange voicemail and I was trying to figure out where it had come from. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said that wasn't the first time someone had mentioned something strange about their phone after a repair. I asked him what he meant. He said sometimes, not often, customers came back saying their phones had sent messages or made calls while in the shop. He said he assumed it was some kind of software glitch, a residual process running on a damaged device. He said it with the tone of someone who had told themselves that explanation enough times that they almost believed it. I still have the voicemail. I haven't deleted it, though I've thought about it many times. There's something about the breathing that keeps me from deleting it. Something familiar about the rhythm of it that I can't place and don't want to examine too closely. My wife asked me once if I thought I recognized it. I told her no. That was not entirely true. Story No. 2. Our new neighbor only came out at night. The house next door had been empty for about 8 months when someone finally moved in. We didn't meet them during the move. We were out of town that weekend, and by the time we came back, the moving truck was gone and the house was simply occupied. Curtains drawn, car in the driveway. We assumed we'd meet them eventually, wave from the driveway, introduce ourselves over the fence. That's how it works in our neighborhood. People are friendly. It's that kind of street. But the weeks passed and we never saw them during the day. The car was always there in the morning, always there when I came home from work, but I never saw anyone come or go. My wife, who works from home and has a window that faces the side of their house, said she'd never seen anyone in the yard, never seen the front door open during daylight hours. We started noticing the night activity by accident. I got up for water around 2 in the morning and glanced out the kitchen window, which faces their driveway. and saw the front door open. A figure came out, walked to the car, sat in it for about 20 minutes with the engine off, then went back inside. Just sat in the car, in the dark, for 20 minutes. Then went back in. I mentioned it to my wife. She said she'd seen something similar. She'd been up late working and had seen a figure in their backyard around midnight standing near the fence, completely still for a long time. We told ourselves there were explanations. Night shift worker, insomnia, someone who simply preferred the quiet of late hours. All reasonable. But the specific quality of the stillness bothered us both. Standing in a backyard at midnight is unusual. Standing in a backyard at midnight without moving, without a phone, without a cigarette, without any visible purpose, just standing and facing the dark, is something else. I finally spoke to them on a Sunday evening in October. Just as it was getting dark, I'd been watching for an opportunity, and that was the first time I'd seen the front door open in weeks. A figure came out onto the porch and I crossed the yard immediately, before I could talk myself out of it. They said fine. They said they kept odd hours. They said they hoped they hadn't disturbed us. I said not at all and asked if they needed anything, the standard neighborly offer. They looked at me for a moment, a particular look, assessing and calm, and then they said, "There's something in this neighborhood at night. I'm trying to figure out what it is." I asked what they meant. They looked past me down the street for a moment. Then they said, "You haven't noticed anything? Moving between the houses after dark? Staying just out of the light?" I told them I hadn't. They nodded slowly, like that was the answer they'd expected. They said goodnight and went back inside. I stood in their front yard for a moment before crossing back to my own house. I looked down the street the way they had. Quiet suburban road, streetlights, parked cars, nothing unusual. But I looked at the pools of shadow between the streetlights, the spaces that the light didn't reach. And I thought about how I had never actually looked at those spaces carefully before. They moved out 4 months later, left quietly the way they'd arrived. The house has been empty since. I still look at the spaces between the streetlights when I take the trash out at night. I still haven't decided if I'm glad to have started looking or if I was better off before. Story No. 3. The reflection that moved half a second too late. I noticed it in the bathroom mirror on an ordinary Tuesday morning. I was brushing my teeth, half awake, going through the mechanical motions of the morning routine. The mirror is a large one, full width of the vanity, good lighting, nothing atmospheric about it. I'd looked at myself in that mirror every morning for 3 years without incident. That morning I raised my right hand to rinse. My reflection raised its hand half a second later. I went still. I stood there with water running over my hand and stared at the mirror. My reflection stared back, correctly now, in sync, matching me exactly. I moved my left hand slightly. Reflection matched it immediately. I turned my head. Reflection turned. Everything normal. I told myself I'd been half asleep, that I'd imagined the delay. The mind does strange things in that early morning fog between sleep and full consciousness. I finished brushing my teeth and went to work and filed it away. It happened again 2 weeks later. This time I was fully awake. Evening, good lighting, I was getting ready to go out. I looked in the mirror and adjusted my collar, and the reflection adjusted its collar just after I did. Not long after. Not a dramatic delay, a fraction of a second. Enough to notice, enough to be certain. I stood very still and watched my reflection. It stood still and watched me back. I raised my hand slowly. The reflection raised its hand simultaneously, correctly, normally. I lowered my hand. The reflection lowered its hand. Normal. In sync. as it should be, but I had seen the delay. Twice now, and both times the moment I focused attention directly on the reflection, it corrected itself, as though it was capable of noticing when it was being watched and adjusting accordingly. That thought, that specific framing of what I'd observed, is what made me genuinely uneasy for the first time. Not the delay itself, the correction. I started paying attention to mirrors after that. Not obsessively, I wasn't standing in front of every reflective surface cataloging my movements. Just a heightened awareness, a habit of looking twice. Over the following 2 months, I noticed the delay 4 more times, always in the same bathroom mirror, always that same fraction of a second lag, and always when I stopped and focused, the reflection would fall back into perfect sync as though nothing had happened. I had the lighting checked. I'd read that certain fluorescent flicker rates could create visual artifacts. The electrician found nothing wrong. I had my eyes examined. Nothing wrong there either. I stopped using that mirror, moved my morning routine to the smaller mirror in the guest bathroom. No delays, no issues, everything normal. I haven't looked directly at the large vanity mirror in 4 months. It's still there, I haven't removed it, which I recognize is somewhat irrational. Some part of me doesn't want to take it down. Some part of me feels that whatever is happening in that mirror is better observed than ignored. My partner thinks I'm being irrational. They use the mirror every day without issue and have never noticed anything unusual. I believe them. I'm not suggesting the mirror is universally wrong. I'm suggesting that whatever I saw in it was responding to me specifically. That something in or behind that glass noticed me the same morning I noticed it, and has been paying attention ever since. I still catch myself glancing at it sometimes when I pass the bathroom door. On the rare occasions I look directly at it, my reflection always looks back perfectly still, perfectly in sync. Waiting, I sometimes think, for the moment I stop watching long enough to move on its own again.